The Bombardier Dash 8 or Q series, previously known as the de Havilland Canada Dash 8 or DHC-8, is a series of twin-engined, medium-range, turboprop airliners. Introduced by de Havilland Canada in 1984, they are now produced by Bombardier Aerospace. Over 1,000 Dash 8s of all models have been built, with Bombardier forecasting a total production run of 1,192 aircraft of all variants through to 2016. The Dash 8 was developed from the de Havilland Canada Dash 7, which featured extreme short takeoff and landing performance. With the Dash 8, DHC focused on improving cruise performance and lowering operational costs. The engine chosen was the Pratt Whitney Canada PW100. The aircraft has been delivered in 4 series. The Series 100 has a maximum capacity of 39, the Series 200 has the same capacity but offers more powerful engines, the Series 300 is a stretched, 50-seat version, and the Series 400 is further stretched to 78 passengers. Models delivered after 1997 have cabin noise suppression and are designated with the prefix Q. Production of the Series 100 ceased in 2005, and the Q200 and Q300 in 2009. Bombardier is considering launching a stretched version of the Q400. Design and development. In the 1970s, de Havilland Canada had invested heavily in its Dash 7 project, concentrating on STOL and short-field performance, the company's traditional area of expertise. Using 4 medium-power engines with large 4-bladed propellers resulted in very low noise levels which, combined with its excellent STOL characteristics, made the Dash 7 suitable for operating from small and city airports, a market DHC felt would be compelling. However, only a handful of air carriers employed the Dash 7, as most regional airlines were more interested in operational costs than short-field performance. In 1980, de Havilland responded by dropping the short-field performance requirement and adapting the basic Dash 7 layout to use only 2, more powerful engines. Its favored engine supplier, Pratt Whitney Canada, developed the new PW100 series engines for the role, more than doubling the power from its PT6. Originally designated the PT7A Tour engine, it later became the PW120. When the Dash 8 rolled out on April 19, 1983, more than 3,800 hours of testing had been accumulated over 2 years on 5 PW100 series test engines. Certification of the PW120 followed in late 1983. Distinguishing features of the Dash 8 design are the large T-tail intended to keep the tail free of prop wash during takeoff, a very high aspect ratio wing, the elongated engine nacelles also holding the rearward folding landing gear, and the pointed nose profile. First flight was on June 20, 1983, and the airliner entered service in 1984 with Norontair. In 1984, Piedmont Airlines, formerly Henson Airlines, was the first U.S. customer for the Dash 8. The Dash 8 design has better cruise performance than the Dash 7, is less expensive to operate and much less expensive to maintain, due largely to having only 2 engines. The Dash 8 has the lowest cost per passenger mile of any regional airliner of the era. It was a little noisier than the Dash 7 and could not match the STOL performance of its earlier DHC forebears, although it was still able to operate from small airports with 3,000 FT runways, compared to the 2,200 FT required by a fully loaded Dash 7. In April 2008, Bombardier announced that production of the classic versions would be ended, leaving the Series 400 as the only Dash 8 still in production. 671 Dash 8 classics were produced, the last one delivered to Air Nelson in May 2008. Q400 X. Bombardier proposed development of a 90-seat stretch of the Q400 with 2 plug-in segments, called the Q400 X project, in 2007. In response to this project, as of November 2007, ATIA was studying a 90-seat stretch. In June 2009, Bombardier Commercial Aircraft President Gary Scott indicated that the Q400X will be definitely part of our future for possible introduction in 2013 a Euro 14, although he has not detailed the size of the proposed version or committed to an introduction date. As of July 2010, Bombardier's vice president, Philippe Boutissa, made comments explaining the company was still studying the prospects of designing the Q400 X and talking with potential customers. At the time, Bombardier was not as committed to the Q400 X as it had been previously. As of May 2011, Bombardier was still strongly committed to the stretch, but envisioned it as more likely as a 2015 or later launch, complicating launch date matters when new power plants to come online in 2016 from GE and PwC. As of February 2012, Bombardier was still studying the issue, however as of 2011, launch date is no longer targeted for the 2014 range. At least a 3-year delay was envisioned. In October 2012, a joint development deal with a government-led South Korean consortium was revealed, to develop a 90-seater turboprop regional airliner, targeting a 2019 launch date. The consortium would include Korea Aerospace Industries and Korean Airlines. Operational history. The Dash 8 was introduced at a particularly advantageous time. Most airlines were in the process of adding new aircraft to their fleets as the airline industry expanded greatly in the 1980s. The older generation of regional airliners from the 1950s and 1960s were nearing retirement, leading to high sales figures. De Havilland Canada was unable to meet the demand with sufficient production. In 1988, Boeing bought the company in a bid to improve production at DHC's Downsview Airport plants, as well as better position itself to compete for a new Air Canada order for large intercontinental airliners. Air Canada was a Crown corporation at the time, and both Boeing and Airbus were competing heavily via political channels for the contract. It was eventually won by Airbus, which received an order for 34 A320 aircraft in a highly controversial move. The allegations of bribery are today known as the Airbus affair. Following its failure in the competition, Boeing immediately put de Havilland Canada up for sale. The company was eventually purchased by Bombardier in 1992. The market demand for short-haul airliners was so great that copyright Rospartiel of France paired with Italy's Alenia to form ATR. Their once separate efforts combined to compete directly with the Dash 8. The resulting ATR 42 was even more economical than the Dash 8, but de Havilland Canada responded with newer models to close the gap. Other companies competed with smaller or more tailored designs, like the Saab 340 and Embraer Brasilia, but by the time these were introduced the market was already reaching saturation. All Dash 8 seconds delivered from the second quarter of 1996 include the active noise and vibration suppression system designed to reduce cabin noise and vibration levels to nearly those of jet airliners. To emphasize their quietness, Bombardier renamed the Dash 8 models as the Q-Series turboprops. The Dash 8 100 is no longer in production, with the last Dash 8 102 built in 2005. Production of the Q200 and Q300 ceased in May 2009. Regional jet competition. The introduction of the regional jet altered the sales picture. Although more expensive than turboprops, regional jets allow airlines to operate passenger services on routes not suitable for turboprops. Turboprop aircraft have lower fuel consumption and can operate from shorter runways than regional jets, but have higher engine maintenance costs, shorter ranges and lower cruising speeds. The market for new aircraft to replace existing turboprops once again grew in the mid-1990s, and DHC responded with the improved Series 400 design. When world oil prices drove up short-haul airfares in 2006, an increasing number of airlines that had bought regional jets began to reassess turboprop regional airliners, which use about 60% less fuel than regional jets. Although the market does not appear to be as robust as in the 1980s when the first Dash 8s were introduced, 2007 saw increased sales of the only 240-plus seat regional turboprops still in Western production, Bombardier's Q400 and its competitor, the ATR series of 50 70-seat turboprops. The Q400 has a cruising speed close to that of most regional jets, and its mature engines and systems require less frequent maintenance, reducing its disadvantage. According to Bombardier marketing, the aircraft breaks even with about one-third of his seats filled, making it particularly attractive on routes with varying passenger numbers where many seats would be empty on some flights. For example, Island Air in Hawaii calculated that the use of a 50-seat regional jet would break even at 45 passenger seats compared to the Q400's 36 seats. Most short-haul routes are less than 350 miles, so the time spent on taxiing, takeoff and landing virtually eliminates a competing jet speed advantage. As the Q400's 360-knot cruise speed approaches jet speeds, short-haul airlines can usually replace a regional jet with a Q400 without changing their gate-to-gate schedules. Bombardier has singled out the Q400 for more aggressive marketing, launching a website centered around the aircraft. The aircraft is also being considered for a further stretched version to compete in the 90-seat market range. Bombardier Commercial Aircraft President Gary Scott has affirmed that 2013-2014 is the sort of time period we're looking at today for offering a stretched version of the Q400 turboprop. Variants, Series 100. DHC8-100 series, original 37 a €39 passenger version that entered service in 1984. The original engine was the PW120A. Later units used the PW121. Rated engine power is 1,800 shp. DHC8-101, 1984 variant powered by either two PW120 or PW120A engines and a 33,000 pounds takeoff weight. DHC8-102, 1986 variant powered by either two PW120A or PW121 engines and a 34,500 pounds takeoff weight. DHC8-103, 1987 variant powered by two PW121 engines and a 34,500 pounds takeoff weight. DHC8-102A, 1990 variant powered by two PW120A engines with revised Heath Techno interior. DHC8-106, 1992 variant powered by two PW121 engines and a 36,300 pounds takeoff weight. DHC8M100, two aircraft for maritime pollution surveillance, operated by Transport Canada, equipped with EMSS 6000 surveillance system. CC-142, military transport version for the Canadian Forces in Europe. CT-142, military navigation training version for the Canadian Forces. Used to train Canadian and Allied nations ACSOs and ESOPs. E-9A Widget A United States Air Force range control aircraft equipped with ANAPS-143, B-1 radar that operates out of Tyndall AFB, Florida to ensure that the overwater military ranges in the Gulf of Mexico are clear of civilian boats and aircraft during live-fire tests of air-launched missiles and other hazardous military activities. Two aircraft are assigned to the 82D Aerial Target Squadron for the support of training missions. An E-9 can detect a person in a life raft in the water up to 25 miles away. Series 200. DHC8-200 series, Series 100 airframe with more powerful Pratt Whitney Canada PW123 engines for improved performance, also capable of carrying 37 to 39 passengers. DHC8-201, 1995 variant powered by two PW123C engines. DHC8-202, 1995 variant powered by two PW123D engines. Q200, version of the DHC8-200 with the ANVS system. Series 300. DHC8-300 series, stretched 3.43 meters over the Series 100/200, a 50 a €56 passenger version that entered service in 1989. The Q300 is powered by the Pratt & Whitney PW123 or PW123B or PW123E, rated a 2,380 a €2,500 shp or 1,774 a €1,864 kilowatts. DHC8-301, 1989 variant powered by two PW123 engines. DHC8-311, 1990 variant powered by two PW123A engines with revised Heath Techno interior. DHC8-314, 1992 variant powered by two PW123B engines. DHC8-315, 1995 variant powered by two PW123E engines. DHC8-300A, version of the DHC8-300 with increased payload. Q300, version of the DHC8-300 with the ANVS system. DHC8-300 MSA, upgraded variant with L3 for maritime surveillance platform. Series 400. DHC8-400, 1999 variant with a maximum of 68 passengers. DHC8-401, 1999 variant with a maximum of 70 passengers. DHC8-402, 1999 variant with a maximum of 78 passengers. Q400, stretched and improved 70 Euro 78 passenger version that entered service in 2000. Its 360-knot cruise speed is 60 Euro 90 knots higher than its competitors' predecessors. Powered by PW150A engines rated at 5071 shp at maximum power. The maximum operating altitude is 25,000 feet for the standard version, although a version with drop-down oxygen masks is offered, which increases maximum operating altitude to 27,000 feet. All Q400s include the ANVS system. Q400 Next Gen, version of the Q400 with updated cabins, lighting, windows, overhead bins, landing gear, as well as reduced fuel and maintenance costs. Extra capacity variant with a maximum of 86 passengers. Q400 Mr. 2 Q400 adapted to the waterbombing role by Cascade Aerospace for the French Tsar copyright Curator copyright Seville. The tanker mode can carry 2,600 US gallon of retardant, foam or water and travel at 340 knots. DHC-8 MPAD-8, 2007 converted for use as a maritime patrol aircraft. DHC-8-400 two-picker forwards, 2008 converted pallet freighter variant with a payload of 9,000 kilograms, operators. Q400 latest orders and deliveries, program status report a Euro Q series aircraft, March 31, 2014, incidents and accidents, notable accidents, November 21, 1990, the Bangkok Airways DHC-8-103 crashed on Koh Samui while attempting to land in heavy rain and high winds. All 38 people on board died. January 6, 1993, Lufthansa CityLine Flight 5634 crashed short of the runway near Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport, France. The crash killed 4 out of 23 passengers and crew. June 9, 1995, Ansett New Zealand Flight 703, a Dash 8 Euro 102 flying from Auckland Airport to Palmerston North crashed on the western slopes of the Tararua Ranges and 16 km east of Palmerston North Airport during an instrument approach in inclement weather. 4 occupants were killed. February 12, 2009, Colgan Air Flight 3407 a Q400, from Newark Liberty International Airport to Buffalo Niagara International Airport, stalled and crashed into a house in Clarence Center, New York, while preparing to land at the airport. All 49 people on board, including 4 crew, in addition to 1 person on the ground, were killed. 2 other people on the ground received minor injuries. The National Transportation Safety Board determined that the aircraft had no known mechanical or computer malfunctions, and pilot error, including a startle and confusion response by the captain, was the primary contributor to the accident. November 23, 2009, a DHC-8-200, being operated on behalf of United States Africa Command, made an emergency landing at Tarracona copyright, Mali and was substantially damaged when the undercarriage collapsed and the starboard wing was ripped off. The incident was caused by the aircraft running out of fuel 29 seconds prior to the forced landing. The captain had opted not to refuel at the previous departure airport. October 13, 2011, an airline's PNG-8 Euro 102, registration P2MCJ, crashed about 20 km south of Madang in Papua New Guinea while en route from Lae with 32 people on board. The aircraft subsequently ignited, resulting in 28 deaths. Both pilots, as well as a flight attendant and a passenger, survived. Following the accident, Airlines PNG grounded its fleet of 12 Dash 8 aircraft. The crash was determined to be caused by pilot error. April 9, 2012, Air Tanzania Dash 8 5 hours MWG was written off at Kigoma Airport, Tanzania in an aborted takeoff. All 39 people on board survived. Major landing gear incidents. In September 2007, two separate incidents of similar landing gear failures occurred within 4 days of each other on SAS-8 Q400 aircraft. A third incident occurred in October 2007, leading to the withdrawal of the type from the airline's fleet. On September 9, 2007, the crew of Scandinavian Airlines Flight 1209, en route from Copenhagen to Aalborg, reported problems with the locking mechanism of the right side landing gear, and Aalborg Airport was prepared for an emergency landing. Shortly after touchdown, the right main gear collapsed and the airliner skidded off the runway while fragments of the right propeller shot against the cabin and the right engine caught fire. Of 69 passengers and 4 crew on board, 11 were sent to hospital, 5 with only minor injuries. The accident was filmed by a local news channel and broadcast live on national television. 3 days later, on September 12, Scandinavian Airlines Flight 2748 from Copenhagen to Palanga had a similar problem with the landing gear, forcing the aircraft to land in Vilnius International Airport. No passengers or crew were injured. Immediately after this incident, SAS grounded all 33 Q400 airliners in its fleet and, a few hours later, Bombardier recommended that all Q400s with more than 10,000 flights be grounded until further notice. This affected about 60 aircraft, out of 140 Q400s then in service. On October 27, 2007, Scandinavian Airlines Flight 2867 en route from Bergen to Copenhagen had severe problems with the landing gear during landing in Kastrup Airport. The right-wing gear did not deploy properly, and the aircraft skidded off the runway in a controlled emergency landing. The Q400 was carrying 38 passengers, 2 infants and 4 crew members on board. No injuries were reported. The next day, SAS permanently removed its entire Dash 8 Q400 fleet from service. In a press release on October 28, 2007, the company's president said, "Confidence in the Q400 has diminished considerably and our customers are becoming increasingly doubtful about flying in this type of aircraft. Accordingly, with the board of directors' approval, I have decided to immediately remove Dash 8 Q400 aircraft from service." The preliminary Danish investigation determined the latest Q400 incident was unrelated to the airline's earlier corrosion problems, in this particular case caused by a misplaced O-ring found blocking the orifice in the restrictor valve. In all, 8 Q400s had landing gear failures while landing during 2007, 4 in Denmark, 1 in Germany, 1 in Japan, 1 in Lithuania and 1 in South Korea. In November 2007, it was revealed that the Swedish Civil Aviation Administration had begun an investigation and as a result found Scandinavian Airlines system culpable of corner cutting in its maintenance department. The airline reportedly made 2,300 flights in which safety equipment was not up to standard. On March 10, 2008, SAS ordered 27 more aircraft from Bombardier in a compensation deal, 14 Q400 next-gen turboprops and 13 CRJ900 jets. Specifications, see also. Related development, de Havilland Canada Dash 7, aircraft of comparable role, configuration and era, Antonov 140, ATR 42, ATR 72, British Aerospace ATP, British Aerospace Jetstream 41, CASACN 235. EADS CASAC 295, Dornier 328, Embraer AN 120 Brasilia, Fokker F-27 Friendship, Fokker 50, Handley Page Herald, Ilyushin Il 114, NAMC YS-11, Saab 340, Saab 2000, Xi'an MA-60, related lists, List of airliners, references, notes. Bibliography. External links, Bombardier Q Series aircraft, Bombardier Q Series, Q400 website, currently flying aircraft, DHC8-100/200 information, type certificate, project information on the Bombardier Q400-8 turboprop regional airliner.